Oh, let me check my audio. Looks like it's working today. I got a property that just showed up in my Redfin page, 641 Closure Lane. Just came active about 3 hours ago. So let's go ahead and analyze it, right? So this property is in 35214. This is a little bit out there in the northwest side of Birmingham. I feel like I've seen some properties up here that were pretty much higher ARV. So this property is 170 grand. So that's probably right around. I feel like I remember like something like that. So let's see, not one but two spacious family dens, near perfect, fresh paint. So don't need to paint again. Okay, so let's look at this property. This property looks relatively good. Not much rehab, to be honest. So I might set aside some money for. I know something in the ceilings. I think they're okay. That bathroom's a little bit more tired, a little dark. I don't really love that, but they just set aside some painting for this one. And what is this? This is just a weird basement room. Okay, well, this is just a den, I guess I'm gonna call that. Probably don't need to do much there. Okay, so this property, 641 Closure Lane. Let's write down the listing price, $169,900 for our rehab. I gotta delete the multiply by 5 number because that was just part of the old scenario. So now this cell in B6 is going to equal to my total number here on my rehab tab. And what I usually do is I set aside some money for the roof repair in row 6. So that's $1,500. I set aside some money for my landscaping in row 46. There was like this one room that I probably want to paint to be a lighter color. So I'm going to just set aside 300 square feet, roughly, of painting at $3 a square foot for $900. And there are 2 bathrooms that I want to change to higher pressure flush toilet at $450 each in row 132. So I'll leave that as is. So I got a total rehab about $4,500, which seems right because it looks relatively turnkey. So now I got my 4560 number. The next thing I need to get is get my rent number for B16. To get my rent number, I got to do 2 things. First, I got to figure out what my rent ceiling is. So I'm going to Google HUD FMR, and I'm going to click on the first link. I'm going to click on the first link. I'm going to scroll down here to this area on the bottom left where it says access to small area FMRs. FMR stands for fair market rents. When you look up the FY 2025 rents, you go to Alabama, and this is in Jefferson County that you can look up right from the MLS listing. And when you go to Jefferson County, you can see that in 35214, your rent ceiling for a 4-bed is $1,580 and the 3 beds $1,420. $1,420, $1,580. Oh, that's the same as 35218. So good to know that that's similar. And now I'm just writing down these data points because I'm getting more and more familiar with the market every single day. Now that I got my rent ceiling, right, I need to compare it against the market rent. To get the market rent, I go to affordablehousing.com. I go to the owner section. I go to the market rent estimator. I plug in the address. Oops. Copy and paste the address over. Boom, boom, boom. I'll put in 4 bedrooms. Now I'm going to compare this number here. It says that for 25 units within a 2.88 mile radius, the average rent is $1,438. So I'm going to use $1,438 here because that's the lower of the 2, and that's probably the more reasonable rent. Because at $1,580, that previous rent ceiling that we're thinking about, that also includes things such as utilities. So if you don't provide utilities, you got to back it all out. So the fastest way for me to go to $1,438 is because that is a lower of the 2, hence it's a more reasonable rent. Now, if you want to see the text for why you got to use a more reasonable rent, I'm pulling up here the Housing Choice Voucher Program Guidebook, okay? Housing Choice Voucher is what was previously known as the Section 8 voucher or Section 8 program, but they rebranded because of all the negative connotations that were associated with Section 8, hence why we moved to Housing Choice Voucher. So in Section 2.2, it says that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, which stands for the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. So obviously the size and unit type matters, but when you look at 4-bedroom units, chances are these are all single family homes. It's really rare for you to build 4-bedroom apartments, practically unheard of. So that's why I'm pretty confident that these 4-bedroom units are going to rent out as expected for 1438 because I'm assuming these are all single family homes. Okay, so I'm gonna put in 1438 right here for my reasonable rent. I'm gonna set aside my taxes number based on what I see on Redfin. Obviously, you should double check with your county assessor records if we're doing so, but at 108 for property taxes. And then for insurance, you have 132 times 1.2. And I'm multiplying by 1.2 to add a 20% premium to the insurance estimate that's there because it's probably assuming it's for a primary residence property. And if I'm using it as an investment property, insurance companies typically underwrite that as a riskier asset. So your premium is going to be more. So that's why I'm reflecting that as a 20% premium. I'm setting aside 10% of the maintenance every single month, right? 10% of the rent just goes in the bank account. I forget about it. I just got a roof replacement quote for 15 grand for the whole roof. A temporary repair was just $55. And then I also had to do a couple of HVAC repairs, which was about roughly $3,500. So this stuff is real money, all right, people? So 10% for my property management and 5% of my rents is set aside for my vacancy. That leaves me with a negative $35 of cash flow. So for me, I got 25% down payment in F19, and my down payment amount in E19 is going to equals to my asking price in B4 multiplied by my down payment percentage in F19. That's going to give you 25% down, all right? My closing cost of $4,247.50 and my renovation cost of $4,560. That's all in there. Now, for my principal, what do I have here? My principal is for my financing amount is going to equal to my asking price in B4 minus my down payment in E19. So for this property, I'm financing $127,000 for $127,425 at 8% interest rate, roughly. Now, interest rate is probably going to go back down a little bit in a while, but let's just be conservative right now at 8%, and we'll go through the scenarios, okay? So, as is, if I rent this property out for $1,438 as a 4-bedroom property, I will be negative cash flow $123 a month, and this is assuming a roughly negative 2.9% cash and cash return based on my down payment, my closing costs, etc. Okay, that's assuming I bought this property for $169,900 with a $4,600 rehab, 25% down, 8% interest rate. Okay. Now let's say the Fed is having their meeting next week, and if they decide to lower the rates, I mean, you already see the 10-year yield do not slow dance with the mortgage rate. So really, the correlations with the 10-year yield, and the 10-year yield just moves a little bit faster than what the Fed does. So if they anticipate that the Fed is going to cut rates faster or dramatically, then you're going to see that 10-year yield go up and down a lot faster. So we'll wait that story, but let's say interest rates drop down to 7%, right? Now, all of a sudden, this deal is now almost a break-even deal. At $1,438, you'll be negative $36 a month. That's roughly around 0.8%, a negative 0.8% return, assuming you paid the same thing for this property with a similar rehab, 25% down, but 7% interest rate. Okay. Now, let's say your target, again, this is not investment advice. We're not saying you got to aim for 10%. It's just, we're not soliciting investments. This is not investment advice. You have to pick for yourself what your strategy is and what your targets are. That's why you got to talk to your own investment professionals about your risk tolerance. Because let's say if I'm trying to target 10% return, then watch what happens to my cash and cash return in E9 as I lower my asking price to $100,000. Well, now all of a sudden at 105, at 105 grand, this would be a 10.3% return. 105. So it's not a deal, quote unquote deal, at $166,900, but it might be a deal for you, assuming everything else stay constant, right? At a 7% interest rate, your rehab is still $4,600. Your rent is $1,438, and now your rent is $288. Okay, that's a 10.3% return after you set aside all the stuff aside. Well, what if you get worried, right? What if you get under contract with this property and you all of a sudden realize that your rehab tripled? Let's go in here in B6 and multiply by 3. So now your rehab is $13,700. $13,700. See how your cash and cash return went down from 10% in E9 to 8%? Well, now your willingness to pay for the property goes down, right? Because if you're trying to get back to the same target return of 10%, you can only achieve that either with lower interest rates, lower down payment, or lower asking price. So if I lower my asking price to 95 grand, all of a sudden now I'm back up to 10.2. So now you're seeing all these different scenarios of what it takes to get back to a target return while taking emotion out of the deal, right? And both of these scenarios, these were quote unquote achieving your target return. But what is your strategy, right? There's some people out there that just want to break even on their investments, on their investment properties. They just want to cash flow break even because they might be in an area, let's say, making this completely up, Southern California, where they're buying $1 million properties. And if they just make 5% on appreciation every single year, that's like 50 grand. Well, does that beat $338 a month? Probably, but it's also very risky, right? It's very speculative. And that's why we always say you got to go talk to your own investment professionals, understand what your goals are so that you can make that informed decision yourself. All we're doing today is figuring out how do you take emotions out of a deal and adjust all the different inputs to make a deal, quote unquote, a deal, because for every property, there should be a price or set of terms that works for you personally. All right. So that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed day 346. We got about 20 more days to go, and then we'll be at a year straight of going live. That's incredible. I hope you've been on this journey with me. There were some days where it was really hard. There were some days where I did not feel like doing it, but I did because I know that I want you guys to be looking at the same deals I'm looking at every single day. This is a property that just came online 3 hours ago. We analyzed it, and you want a copy of the spreadsheet, you can go to affordablehousing.io. not .com, affordablehousing.io. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool. That's the fastest way to get a copy of the spreadsheet. I didn't make it from scratch. I got it from a few other folks, and I tweaked it and modified so that I can analyze these deals as quickly as possible. Because that's how you avoid burnout, right? You burn out from doing a ton of work for no return on your effort, and sometimes that's hard. So I hope that you put in your name, email, your phone number. Fastest for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. I promise I won't spam you. And I hope you copy my homework and you put it on your own spreadsheet. You find one thing that I explained, but explain it better. And then go for it. Please have fun. Put in the reps. Because when a partner asks you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? You can go back at that point in time and show them, hey, I know that this is a deal because I've been underwriting deals for the past 346 days. And these are all not deals. Might that give you a little bit more confidence that you know what you're doing? Might that give your partners a little bit more confidence that they know what they're doing? I certainly hope so. So I hope you all have an amazing day. I hope you all spend some quality time with your family and friends today because that's what life is all about. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll see you all again tomorrow for day 346.